It's Friday, the 30th of September, 2011, and in this Boardroom Talk special podcast, the Chief Executive of Phumelela, Riaan Plessis, joins us now. Well, Riaan, these are financial results for the year to the end of July. It's a strange time, maybe before we get into the numbers, to be producing results. It's a strange year-end. Where did that come from?
Coincides with horse anniversaries.
So it's something to do with the racing industry, then. It's not a...
Absolutely.
Increasingly, we're seeing changes of year ends to December and perhaps to June or March. Not that many in July, but that's your one. These results, I suppose the important thing is that there's a nice juicy dividend, 6% yield in the current share price.
Yep. We maintained the dividend. Our profits were up. Headline earnings per share was up 5%, but we generated strong cash. So we've maintained our dividend, which is a high dividend yield. As our profits grow, we'll return to more normal cover, but during recessionary conditions, we believe it's important to look after our shareholders, particularly if we continue to generate strong cash.
How important is the dividend to your BE shareholders, given that there are often financial structures where they need the dividends to actually finance the purchase of shares?
No, our structures are so deeply in the money that there's no debt remaining, to the best of my knowledge. So it's important to the stake spot because the Thoroughbred Trust owns 35% of us, and they plough back 80% of their dividend into the stake spot. So the stake spot benefits from a healthy dividend.
Tell us a little about the stake spot. That's the money that is competed for by racehorse owners.
Yes, it's the prize money for some 4,000 races that we stage every year.
And what has happened to that recently?
You'll see from our results that this year it was down 3%, which is disappointing because obviously, our owners and trainers are experiencing inflationary cost pressures and increases. So, but we'll work as hard as we can. And, with Phumelela back on a growth path, we would hope and are determined to grow the stake spot as well.
When you say a growth path, is that primarily what's happening internationally? Because that share of the business seems to be growing.
Look, I think it's internationally, plus the exciting sports bets that we have. Incidentally, Soccer 10, which we recently launched yesterday, for a R2 bet, you would have won 146,000 Rand. So our soccer bets and our rugby bets are growing nicely. We've launched a Rugby 5 bet in time, and we're betting on it. In fact, our pool closes at 11 o'clock tonight for this weekend's World Cup games. And it's beyond our expectations. So betting world is growing very nicely. I don't know if you noticed that we are buying out the remaining 41% from Gold Circle. So betting world will be wholly owned. So that gives us between 20 and 25% of the fixed odds bookmaker business in South Africa. And we see quite a bit of growth for that too.
Take us through the situation with Gold Circle, because within the horse racing industry there has been much rumour and conjecture. Now with the purchasing of Betting World out of the Gold Circle operation, which itself is splitting up, one half possibly going into bed with Phumelela, the other half doing its own thing.
Well, yes, those negotiations are at an advanced stage. The Western Cape is demerging from KwaZulu-Natal. Western Cape is heavily loss-making. It loses about 15 million Rand a year. And the Western Cape directors and ourselves are of the view that the Western Cape is not viable as a standalone business or standalone tote. I beg your pardon. I hope you can edit that out. So the Western Cape has approached us, and where we are at the moment is, assuming that the deal goes through, the Western Cape business will be taken over by the Thoroughbred Trust, which is a trust with a non-profit motive and has the greater interests of the sport at heart. So the Western Cape's business will be taken over by the trust. The Western Cape members of Gold Circle will be given the opportunity to become members of the Racing Association, and the day-to-day running of the racing and betting operations will be outsourced to Phumelela.
So KwaZulu-Natal will then stay on its own. What happens to those very complicated relationships that you have in Phumelela Gold? In other words, where Gold Circle and Phumelela worked together on international income, for instance?
Yes, they remain in the absence of reaching a different agreement. So the Phumelela Gold Enterprises partnership remains in Teletrack and International, etc. Albeit that KZN would now just have a smaller percentage, with the Western Cape not being part of them anymore.
Has that breakdown of the power been agreed to yet, or is that also a subject of negotiation?
Pretty much the split has been agreed.
So it's full steam ahead, it seems, perhaps trying to do a little bit of a turnaround in the Western Cape. You say it has been losing money. Why was that?
Numerous reasons, I guess. It depends on which days you race, how much betting you will generate. So there is something in the racing fixtures, I guess. For us looking at it, the revenues from betting on sports are disappointingly low. So what Phumelela will be doing would be promoting sports betting very, very heavily. And I think there is room to grow the retail footprint, more tote outlets, and add these additional bets and try to trade out of trouble. I do believe that we would need some help from either government or the gambling boards to overcome the problem in the short term, because we do have to spend quite a bit of capex on Kenilworth, etc. So we are in discussions with the Western Cape government, and we've also made approaches to national government for assistance.
Riaan, you mentioned that Phumelela is now a growth company, in your opinion. How are you going to be able to, or when are shareholders going to see that on the bottom line? Because you've been bumping along for a while now.
Yeah, I mean, 5% growth is no great shakes, but in the context of not only the world economy, but where horse racing is elsewhere in the world, we're quite proud of what we've achieved. We think that there's a lot of growth left in the international market. We only had 2 months of the SIS contract in the 2011 financial year.
What is that about?
It's the contract where we sell our media and data rights to SIS, and they onward sell it to 10,000 bookmakers in the UK for display in their retail betting shops.
So that takes South African racing there, and you get a revenue share.
Yes,
from doing so.
We get a fixed fee, and the fixed fee that SIS is paying us, and on a 5-year deal, is almost double what we used to earn.
So that's good news going into the future. Only 2 months in this year. Good. And the other areas of growth?
Well, we should benefit from a weaker rand already. We are seeing new territories coming in. Turkey has started taking our racing. We're hopeful that France will take our racing more regularly now, France being the 3rd biggest tote in the world. So there's quite a few things on the go on the international side. On the local side, we aim to grow Betting World's footprint aggressively, and its business as well. And then on the tote side, we aim to introduce more sports bets and more exotics.
So when you have a look back in a year's time, we have this conversation, are you anticipating that the earnings growth will be a bit better than the 5% you put on the table?
It's early days, Alec, but we'd be disappointed if it's only 5%.
Riaan du Plessis is the Chief Executive of Phumelela. Thank you, Riaan.